Alrighty, we are sitting down for another one-shot review. The movie that I watched today was Paranormal Activity. Excuse me. And watching this movie is kind of interesting because this is one of those movies that I can actually remember the big hype media circus or just like the vibe of being alive when this movie came out and going to the theaters and seeing it and all that kind of stuff. So that in and of itself adds a layer for this movie to me of like almost a nostalgia thing, and it also helps me understand the context of when this movie first was released. So just getting into it, Paranormal Activity is one of the very first found footage films. I think there were others before it, like maybe Blair Witch Project or something like that, but for the most part, this was one of the biggest sort of found footage films that helped push a lot of these other found footage type films into production. And to my knowledge, I believe it was actually crowdsourced to some extent because they have like a fan thing at the end where they roll all these people's names. But that's kind of interesting. The movie is about these two individuals, Micah, I don't know, she uses both throughout the movie to talk to her husband or her boyfriend, and then Katie, and they believe that they almost like innocently, like, you know how we all joke about there being some sort of ghost or demon or something in our house that makes all these noises late at night or whatever, like because of that joke, he's gone out and bought a camera, Micah, and he set it up. And now they're going to film the house, and if they catch anything, then, you know, that would be fun. Is kind of the way that this has been set up. So, you know, eventually they do start to notice some stuff. First, it's just some keys being flown off the counter. Then it's, you know, some huge noises at night. And they bring in this sort of spiritual type of dude. Maybe he's a pastor, maybe not. I don't know. Just seems like an expert on these sort of things. And she starts explaining to him that she, you know, feels like she's been followed by something her whole life, and that there's always been these kind of paranormal little tit for tat things going on that at one point in her life when she was little led up to the burning down of her childhood home. Now she feels like it's happening again and they're trying to videotape it. He's like, my guys, don't acknowledge this thing. Don't try to communicate it with it. Don't do anything like that, or you're opening the door for this thing to basically transcend what it's doing now and actually enter your life and start messing with you in a way you wouldn't like. And so naturally, the rest of the movie is them messing with and communicating with the devil, and eventually it leads to some crazy stuff happening. So, this movie, first of all, I think my take on this is going to be pretty quick, just because the movie in and of itself doesn't have like a whole lot going on, but what are some things that I like about this movie? For one thing, I think they did the found footage aspect of the film very well, and I'm almost nostalgic looking at the timer run at the bottom right of the screen as they're doing their things at night, just because it was, at the time, it was such a novel thing that I remember. I think it's also part of the thing is that I was naive and a young person, but the way that they constructed this footage and they kept it low tech, or maybe it was low tech because they didn't have enough money to have a better camera. You know, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt though. The way that they constructed this made it feel real. And even though there's no law that says that they can't have these messages at the beginning, I do think it's kind of scummy of Paramount that they have that, like, oh, thanks to, you know, Katie and Micah and the San Francisco Police Department for allowing us to air this footage. And it's like, what it does is it makes you think that this literally is found footage because they're treating it in such a way. And at the end of the movie, they're like, oh, well, you know, something, something. Yeah, I guess I'm not going to spoil it, but something, something. And then, you know, Katie's whereabouts are unknown. all of this to build it up to make it seem like it literally is real, even though it is kind of scummy that they did that, because it's like, you know, yeah, you could say that the San Francisco Police Department let you release any film. You know what I mean? Be like, thank you for them for just staying out of our way, which is exactly what they should do and they have no authority over the release of film. You know what I mean? But as a kid, as a middle schooler, seeing that, and maybe even as an adult, if I had not known, if I hadn't watched a lot more movies like this since then, and I had no idea of what this movie was and that there were a ton of sequels and stuff like that, you could see how you could convince somebody that was real. And when I was younger, at least for like the first 2 times I watched it in the month or so after it first came out, me and my friends were like, oh my God, it's all real. You can't ignore this. You know what I mean? Which is just kind of funny to think about. But so that aspect, they absolutely nailed it. And I have to commend them for, creating a way to create something on such a low budget and then make so much money off of that and make something so, I guess, relevant to the cultural zeitgeist at the time. Now, what are some things that I don't like about this movie? For one thing, I think that for the most part, the spooks in this movie are underwhelming, and at times they're a little bit ridiculous. Like, for example, and I know that this gets better because I've seen the second and third film. I know they do a much better job of kind of fixing this problem in the future, so let's just go ahead and say it probably was a budget thing. But what ends up happening is like 90% of the spooks in this is just some big bumps in a different room, or a blanket getting pulled off somebody, or somebody getting up and staring at somebody all night long. All very spooky, but nothing to the level of kind of what then you eventually expect, where I think it's in either 2 or 3 that it's like the camera flips to a different angle and then it flips back and everything in the kitchen is on the ceiling and then it just drops. And it's just like those sort of suspense moments don't really exist in this film. And a lot of the lines that are supposed to be some of the more dramatic lines get delivered in such a way where it's almost, and maybe this adds to it. Maybe this adds to the authenticity of it, but it's almost like me when I look at how I speak into the camera, or how other people on like early YouTube would speak into the camera, where there wasn't very much voice inflection, and it's just like, some of these lines are supposed to be a little bit more believable, of her being like, babe, come back to bed, or him being like, I'm in fucking control, I know what's going on, I'm gonna solve it, nobody's coming in to get my girlfriend. It's like all those lines got delivered with kind of a nonchalantness that made them not feel as real. And then also there are aspects of the spooks that was a little bit silly. Like when he laid all the powder down and the thing that's haunting them has like a 3-toed pattern, and they follow it all the way back to the attic or something. But anyway, all that being said, I think the movie is a very interesting and unique movie, maybe less so today than it was in the past, but having been there for the real release of this thing and knowing what impact it had and how it all made us feel at the time, I have a special spot for this movie in my head and heart, and I'm really happy that I got it on Blu-ray. I don't have it up here with me, but I ended up getting a brand new one off of eBay for like $5, which, by the way, for those of you that have made it to this part of the video, just know that we have come across, when I'm always talking about buying physical because you're not going to be able to stream everything, and there's probably a bunch of stuff that you don't even realize you can't stream, even though you own every streaming service. It's like, this is one of those movies. I tried to look it up yesterday, so, because even if I own it, if I can watch a 4K rip of it on streaming, I don't want to have to deal with my PS5 and stuff. I don't have to. And it wasn't on anything. The best option you had was buying it, renting it from Amazon or Apple for $3 or $4. So there you go, buying physical. You know, if you have the Blu-ray, you watch it for free. Or I guess for me, I basically have to watch it a second time to make it worth it. But that being said, this movie, Paranormal Activity, I have a special spot for this movie. I think it was one of the first very interesting found footage films. Probably not the first, but one of the first ones that hit a mainstream appeal. And I remember how spooky and how creeped out it made me feel when I was a kid, just because I thought it was real. So I have to say that I think this movie deserves a strong 3. I think that there are aspects of the movie that are definitely a little bit low budget or low effort that just make it so it's not possible for it to be a 4, even if it is so unique in its found footage implementation. But so yeah, strong 3. If you disagree with me, feel free to let me know in the comments. What do you guys think about this movie? You know, like, comment, subscribe if you feel like it. I will catch you guys on the next video.